Amazing. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So congratulations on finishing the Agentic automation series with UiPath. We're holding this session for you now to show you how AI is transforming our work as AI and automation practitioners. This session will give you a peek into how AI is actually being applied in whichever role you're wanting to step into, whether it be developer, business analyst, project manager, or operations support. You'll gain concrete examples of how AI and automation are reshaping these roles and how to position yourself as someone who knows how to leverage AI. So I'm going to introduce our speakers, and if maybe you can give a wave and say hello. So I think that will help to put the spotlight on you. So we have Michelle, who's team lead for our business analysts, Gagan, intelligent automation developer, Vignesh, also intelligent automation developer, Hudson, senior business analyst, Yash, senior developer, Rotimi, project manager, and myself, Melanie. I wear multiple hats in innovation, including project management, BA, and operations support. Davin and Andre are unfortunately not able to make the session today. So everyone, please feel free to say hello in the chats and put your name and location so we know where you're coming from. Diana, were you going to poll everyone? Not sure if Diana is online, but also if you want to add to the chat, what your role is or what role you're wanting to step into, that would be amazing. Oh my gosh, wow, we have people from all around the world. Welcome. So glad you are joining us today. All right, so let me share a little bit about Greenlight as an organization so you know who we are. The company has been in business for over 16 years. We are a UiPath Diamond partner specializing in enterprise automation, data, and AI, including, of course, RPA, automations with generative AI and agentic AI. We operate out of Canada, the US, Costa Rica, and India. This is just a quick slide to show you some of the clients that we've helped and a really beautiful quote from one of our clients. Okay, so at Greenlight, in addition to using AI that is embedded in UiPath's platform, we've of course been applying AI across every phase of our automation delivery cycle. We're going to walk you through how this looks in practice, starting with how projects typically flow from the UiPath sessions, and maybe from your own experience. You're likely familiar with the phases of an automation project, from the discovery of processes to qualification, selection, project initiation, and then all the way up to deployment and hypercare and operations. So when the team came together to discuss how we're all using AI, these key themes emerged in how we're leveraging AI as practitioners. AI as a thought partner, knowledge enhancement, content generation and documentation, rapid prototyping and development, analysis and troubleshooting, communication, and collaboration. So let's get more specific. Here are some concrete examples of how we're applying these themes in our daily work. We're going to walk you through some of these examples and others and show you how you can use AI in your chosen role. But before we dive in, let's take a quick pause here to discuss something really fundamental, and that is the responsible use of AI in our work. These are 4 key principles that we wanted to highlight. So data privacy first, never, of course, input any kind of private data, including PII, client data, proprietary information into public AI tools. Always verify. I'm sure everyone's seen other people who have just sort of, copy pasted whatever AI has generated into, whatever output deliverable. It always needs to be reviewed. AI can hallucinate, of course, we all know, and always validate the outputs. I like this phrase, AI is a co-pilot, not autopilot. When you use it as, support for yourself, you need to maintain your critical thinking hats, and, you're still the expert reviewer. And then document AI usage, track when and how AI assisted for transparency and compliance. And of course, always know your company policy and what AI tools are available for you to use. So without further ado, we're going to dive right in, and I'm going to hand it off to Hudson to talk about how he uses AI in the discovery phase.
Thanks, Mel. I'm just going to make sure I can share my screen here. Should be able to. Good. All right, perfect. Um, So as a business analyst and as a consultant just in general, I think a lot of the time what we're being asked to do is not only be experts in technology, but also be experts in specific domains. And that's what our clients are bringing us in to do. So a lot of the time in the past, it's taken a lot of Googling, doing your own research, talking to people who have experience in this area in order to kind of come prepared into these scenarios. With the development of the generative AI tools that we have today, in order to be able to gather knowledge to do our work most effectively, there's actually quite a bit that's available today. And so I just wanted to walk through an exercise of how I might go into a specific client discovery, where I might not be an expert in that subject matter. We have worked in lots of areas, and your colleagues may have worked in lots of areas, but coming into this, and wanting to just be focused on the specific pain points and needs of a business, that's something that is just expected these days. So I'm going to come from the perspective of I don't know anything about the industry, and I want to get up to speed before we have that first call where we're going to find out what the business is looking to do. So usually what I do is I come with a series of prompts, and I actually do a knowledge gathering exercise. And you can use any of the models, but I'm just going to use ChatGPT today. So let's say in this example, I want to talk specifically about auto lending. So I'm going to come and I'm going to say, what are the things that the business are going to expect me to know? They're going to want me to know and speak their language with the terminology. They're going to want me to understand what their pain points are. And they're also going to want me to be able to understand overall what the outcome of that specific goal of automation or using agentic AI, what the goal is going to mean for the business. So I'm going to start my knowledge gathering in advance like this. And I'm just going to prompt ChatGPT to see what kind of information I get back on this one. So let's say I don't know anything about lending. I'm already hearing just a response about the different phases that are involved in this. So we know that there's origination, there's underwriting and servicing, and then there's also some of these ratios that need to be considered. So I'm already kind of bringing into the fact that there's going to be some math, there's going to be some credit scoring, but there's also going to be some just document gathering and things like that. I'm also learning that a lot of the pain point is related to some of the portals that they use in order to gather all that information. And then just inconsistencies in how documents are recorded into their core systems. So this gives me a little bit of an idea. I'm going to look at some things related to metrics, cost per loan. Even just mentioning some of these on the call, it usually gets our clients to kind of prompt to kind of nod their heads, and they understand kind of that we understand their area. So I'm going to do some of this research and just start speaking their language. Now, after that, the other thing they're going to want to know is obviously, where does automation, where does Gen AI, where does this all fit into my specific industry? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to want to gather some use cases related to that. And this is just if the conversation, they're not sure where they want the bottlenecks to be addressed, we can come in and just kind of prompt them to have those discussions. So I might have a prompt also as a part of my knowledge gathering, just related to some of the automation use cases that can be generated. And usually I just want to get some ideas. So I'm going to prompt for maybe 4 or 5 ideas in those individual parts of the process and where these technologies can fit. So very quickly, I'm figuring out loan origination, credit underwriting. RPA can be used in different ways. So we have standard document retrieval applications, but then we also have intelligent document processing and other ways that we can use different RPA and AI processes, and then just also where we might be able to provide some of that feedback. I'm usually not going to say, hey, these are the benefits you're going to receive, but it's a starting point for being able to address these areas. Now, if I have these on the side of my notes while I'm talking to individuals, it's probably going to perk up some ears. So I usually like to go through and just ask open-ended questions about each of these. I'm not usually using generated material to present anything. It's more so just to get them to open up. Does this sound like the areas that you need to address? And usually we get some good responses out of that, and we can proceed into digging deeper in discovery. So once you have some ideas of what the pain points are, what some of the use cases are, later on, at some point, people really want to understand, where do these specific tools fit into the specific parts of my process from a design perspective? Now, in discovery, we're not necessarily trying to actually go into the design. That comes with the actual developers and experienced design leads later on. But we do want to get a ballpark of what types of technology specifically could be used. So I might use a third prompt just related specifically to how we could use AI agents and other intelligent tools in order to address each of these. And that's a very big thing that we're seeing right now related to the hot buzzwords of AI and agentic AI. So I might just say a third example of a prompt here where I'm just going to ask, give me specific names or specific types of agents that I might be able to use in this space in case those types of questions come up. So right away, I can see with IDP, I can extract the know your client documents that they're submitting, anything related to the vehicle's history, anything related to documentation on their credit scores and things like that. And IDP can extract that information and then proceed with the later parts of the process. We have agents for validating and cross-checking any anti-money laundering. Are these people on any lists that are being monitored that we shouldn't be lending for? Does the credit bureau have any flags for these individuals? And going through each of the steps of the process, I can use this to forecast where agents might be used, where we're just going to need things like robots to do kind of standard transactional reporting, and where we're really going to unlock the capabilities of those AI agents. So just in this exercise, what I've done is I've been able to understand a little bit more of the industry and the pain points. I've been able to understand where the AI and RPA opportunities are. And now I'm going into this call really able to direct the call based on what the business, their main pain points are, and then also speak to both the technology and the understanding of what we can do with them. And then going forward, we can already have an idea in mind of how we might design some of these individual components. So that's how I'm using it. A lot of us do this. It makes us look professional when we're a little bit prepared going into these calls. And now I'm going to hand it off to Rotimi.
Hey everyone, how you doing? So just a quick intro of myself, Rotimi, longer name Oluwadurotimi. God be with you. For the folks out there, shout out to any Nigerian on the call. And my role here at Greenlight is that of a project manager. And so just kind of give you how, a POV from how it kind of applies to me, right? How I utilize AI to supercharge my role and, kind of make sense of it, right? It's a scary one, right? Because as you kind of hear from Hudson earlier, you've got all these brilliant minds I've got to work with, right? I work with business analysts on a day-to-day. I work with solution architects. I work with all these crazy names, engineers, machine learning, all of that. And I'm this dude that's trying to synthesize all that information and trying to get to a point of view. And so from where we pick up where Hudson's done that pre-discovery, before we kick off, I'm coming in at a point where we're talking about initiation of a project. So for context, how this works is there's a sales guy that has gone out to the client and he sold all this crazy stuff and said, hey, we're going to deliver this to you. Yes, you have a car, you have a car, you have a car, that kind of thing, right? And then I kind of need to take all that information and generate a point of view, right? In some instances, I have experience and knowledge in that domain, and I'll touch on Hudson's point earlier, but in most, I do not. And so I need a co-pilot that's going to help me. So I kind of pre-prep something for us just so I can bring this to life with y'all. Let me know once the screens come up, and then I'll just walk you through something together. So is the screen up? Just a thumbs up should do. All right, amazing. So I call my co-pilot Aura, right? Because I try to, when the AI revolution kind of takes over, I want a buddy on my side. That's my bestie. So I've kind of prepped Aura to say, hey, I'm doing a panel conversation. I'm going to throw prompts at her so that she can pretty much guide us through this together, right? So she's going to help. She's got the scenarios. She asked me whether or not she wants to get straight to the point or what have you. So in this situation, I've been told, hey, I've got to go deliver healthcare related automation to try and automate electronic health records, just as an example, right? Have no clue about that industry. I've never been to a doctor since I was 5 years old. And I'm like, hey, Aura, I'm being told to go to deliver a project with this client. What are some common pitfalls? So just that. What are some common pitfalls with healthcare related automations? And so the challenge here is that from a initiation perspective, what we're trying to do is trying to get to clarity as quickly as possible, taking all this input coming from all sorts of stakeholders and trying to synthesize a straightforward position that can help us drive the delivery of said engagement. And so I utilize the co-pilot to be able to understand the context, because that's the first position I typically find myself in. I need to be able to understand fundamentally what we intend to deliver here, how, and what the stakeholder groups formation is in a way where I'm able to then appropriately drive the delivery, spot risks from a mile away. And so in this kind of instance, I would get some quick insight into the kind of things I should look out for as I go into this project, right? So unstructured, inconsistent data. We've then sold the project that, hey, we want to, automate the electronic health record system. I'm like, okay, Hudson, I know you said you did discovery. Did you spot this? And he's like, hey, Rotimi, I got you. I did. And this is how we intend to mitigate it. And then I brainstorm with Hudson and go, sometimes I pretend it was my idea, even though Aura kind of told me what to do. And I'm like, Hudson, no, at this part, right? When you go into the next session, regulatory and compliance gaps. At the kickoff, usually what then happens is we've got all these scary stakeholders that come in. They're already skeptical. What's all this AI about, right? And then you have like the gatekeepers, right? Security, in some instances, compliance and things like that. You want to be able to speak the language of the robust stakeholder groups that you would typically have. And so I kind of utilize AI as well to be able to help with that. But just seeing this, just as a rough idea, it kind of gives me some insights into the areas that I need to orchestrate my line of comms and POV at initiation in a way where I'm able to then have the most impact. So I think just to distill, context knowledge is one of my primary positions as a project manager at project initiation. The other piece about it is I want to be able to generate artifacts, right? So for us in Greenlight, part of the things we will generate at this stage of the project is like a kickoff deck that tells, the journey that we intend to go on, talk about the methodology of how we intend to deliver, talk about, the approach to communication. I utilize this to try and brainstorm and get some insights into that areas. And then I think one point that I think is critical, just before I pass off to Michelle to then get into the weeds, right, from like a discovery perspective, requirement solicitation perspective, is with projects, most times what is being told or said in the South isn't the real problem. In some instances, they're trying to solve for the organization. And so even though the scope of work says this, what I want to be able to determine at the end of the start, in this case, of the project is what's the real meat behind this engagement, and how do I ensure that we get to value at the end of the engagement. And so I would utilize, Aura in this case to go, hey, Aura, for electronic health records, health records, right? For EHR implementations, what do you reckon, right? Is the real pain behind, a solution or an automation engagement, and how can I help, right? To make this real. Or better still, I'll go, how can we help in our role to solve these problems, right? And this is another piece that can kind of come through to help us in terms of like getting like a direction through the engagement, right? So you can already see straight up, right? This is that extra level of value that I think for anyone that's in project management, even business analysts going into that space, this is the real value you're providing. We're not checklist folks that just going, hey, yes, 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 delivered, project, budget, timeline, schedule. No, that now can be automated. This is where you then get that extra advantage, right? Where you're able to speak and convert strategic to tactical execution, right? So I can kind of already see those things, right? Data integrity has come up again. And so I'll be talking to Hudson, I'll be talking to Gagan and the team and calling this out primarily throughout the engagement. My spidey senses are going to be super alert, just knowing that I kind of seen this a bit and a lot. Clinicians are burnt out. So when we get into conversations with them, I'm kind of speaking to those nurses to try and get them on our side so we have a smooth delivery through the engagement because we're speaking to the problem. But ultimately, we also want to get to the executives, right? The CIO is going to be saying, hey, things are just moving slow. Everyone's screaming at me that it's moving slow. How do we then solve and address those problems, right? So there's a lot to talk about, but this is kind of how I utilize in my role for this, this area of the work. And then I'll pause for now, pass to Michelle. But drop in the chat if there's anything you're interested in me just chatting about as we go along. But thanks for the time so far. And Michelle, over to you.
Thanks. So I'm going to kind of cover some discovery items that we do. I'm not going to display quite yet, but I'll kind of speak to how through the discovery process, when we finally we're on the client, Rotimi said, go do your discovery calls, figure out what this process is. How do I use AI through that process? And I think the obvious thing is taking the meeting transcripts after we've had that call with them and using it for creating my notes, creating what the process steps are in that. Some things as a reminder, redact your transcripts before you load them into ChatGPT or Claude. So if there is PPI in there, if there is PII in there, if there's anything that you need to remove, just to make sure that you are protecting personal information, make sure that you redact your transcripts first. But then once you've loaded it, take it beyond that basic, hey, summarize this call. Make sure that you're asking it some specific questions. So some things that I really like to do is say, create my process steps that were discussed on this call. I make sure I say I'm a business analyst who is working in RPA. This is the purpose of this call from the client, is to describe this process to me. This is what I need out of it, the level of detail. So I make sure my prompts include that. And then I like to make sure I ask AI, where should I be asking follow-up questions? So instead of me sitting there thinking through all the things I need to go back and ask, I'll ask it as an RPA developer, as an RPA business analyst, what follow-up questions do you think need to be asked? So then it can add those into those process steps. I can review those, add my own flavor, my own things that I would want to ask. and I can then go back to the client faster with follow-up questions. So instead of taking, 3-4 hours to review a 1 hour call, maybe it's down to 1 hour. I still review that call, make sure I don't need to add anything else, but it really does save quite a bit of time in that review. And then the next thing I do, so as a business analyst, my least favorite thing to do is the fact that every time I need to create a document, I need to rework what I've already done. So I prefer to start by creating my process flow. So I create a process flow of what we're going to be automating. I find that's the easiest way to communicate with the business by using a visual. And so I will create my process flow in Visio. Any tool will really do. So I'm just going to show you just a quick sample of one that I threw together as an example of a process. Just double check you guys can see my screen. So basically I print this to PDF and I throw it into a prompt. So I'm just going to pull open my prompt here. And I have a couple prompts. I have a basic process flow prompt, and I have this is a huge behemoth process flow prompt, and both of them work extremely well. So basically I say I've created my process flow, help me create my requirements document. So I have a basic prompt here that I put in, and this is what it spits back to me on this one. I have it break it down into different stages. So that these are related to this phase of the automation, this is related to this phase, and so on. So it's easier to group for the developers if they're focusing on specific areas. And then I have a numbering convention that I use that goes along with that. Is it a business requirement or a rule? What are notes associated with that? Is it a must-have or is it a nice-to-have? I have that called out in here as well. So this is something that I use to write my initial draft of my PDD, because everything is already basically in the Visio flow, and this allows me to add to it. I'll just show you if you want to see that prompt, because I'm pretty sure you all want to take a screenshot of what I use for my prompts. Feel free to steal my work. I don't care. So we spent quite a bit of time as a BA team playing around with these prompts. We really took them to the next level, and now they're just reusable for every client. Pop your Visio flow in, have it spit out your requirements for you. And as a consulting firm, it's really nice that every client can get a very consistent product from us. So me as a BA is going to deliver something very similar to Hudson, very similar to Davin, because we can all use the same requirements, the same prompts on this. So these are the ones that we use for creating a PDD or requirements document from our Visio flow. And then we can take it one step further, where the output that comes from this can then be reviewed, edited as I see fit. So I add and I remove some requirements as I review and change some things around. And then I use that exact output to then become an input to my next prompt. So from there, usually what happens is I've created my PDD, and now I have to create my testing document. So now I've got to go and do UAT as well. So this input is now going to become, or this output will become an input in a future step. But for now, I'm going to hand it back to Mel. And Mel, you're going to cover something else off, right?
Yes, and I'll just quickly add too, I don't have an example that I can show you right now, but we have experimented with video to requirements as well. And it's worked quite well with some of the models, so specifically with Gemini Flash models. But of course, again, always needing to review. And, if there is, more noise in transcripts, videos included, obviously it's going to yield a less ideal results. So I'm going to show you Bolt. So as business analysts, we're sometimes needing to capture requirements for user interfaces and create mockups, which are very time consuming. no matter what tool you use. And as you're getting feedback with the business, and you're reiterating and trying to get it closer to a prototype to get that feedback, it can take quite a bit of time. So one of the big use cases for AI is the creation of prototypes using tools like Bolt, V0, Lovable, Replit, etc. I like using Bolt. So this is Bolt that you see here, and this is a UI that I created for. Of course, I adjusted content and a few things, but for one of the projects, which is really about taking a sales opportunity and analyzing the data within Salesforce to then come up with insights and recommendations for next steps. And it has not just Salesforce as a data source, but other sources as well, such as email and call transcripts. So this, we used to get feedback from the business. It works actually really well. And so I'll show you some tips for Bolt in particular, is to keep the instructions small. Like, so first you have your basis for the UI, and then you do small iterations using the planning mode. So Bolt has integrated Claude code into it for planning. And then you can execute the plan, or you can ask for adjustments, and then there's another plan it comes up with, review it, and then implement. So we can try something really quickly here. I like how I still add please in front of everything. I think that there's been tests that show it doesn't really matter if you say please or not, but I still do it as out of habit. Or Jamie, do you do it as well?
Please and thank you.
Guilty over here, very guilty. It's the Canadian in me. I can't help it.
And
It's
if
the
you're really
Nigerian
into
in me.
collaboration, then you're like, oh, great idea. How about this? Using it as a true thought partner.
Indeed, indeed.
Okay, so here it's coming up with a plan. I'm not actually going to review it for the sake of this example, just to show you how easy it is then to implement the plan. Hopefully it won't take too long. But what I usually do is do something else. So multitask while this is going on. Work on other documentation or deliverables, and then come back to this. And I believe you can also get alerted when it's finished. You can see it's the steps it's taking, and then what it's editing exactly. And you can also connect this to GitHub as well, so you can save your work as you're going along in case it takes a turn for the worst, or you can branch out as well. Okay. And here's my scroll bar. So you can actually, do this type of iteration in an actual business meeting, so that they can see as you're adjusting and provide feedback and continue to adjust. So this has saved us enormous amounts of time. And then, of course, the developers have a working prototype then to build with. So speeds things along quite a bit. Right. And I'm going to turn it over to Yash now.
Thanks, Mel. Let me start sharing my screen. Perfect. Are you guys able to see that? Should just be a VS Code window.
It's open.
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah, so hey guys, my name's Yash. I'm a senior developer. I'm going to walk through how I use AI to actually write code and implement the sort of automations that we build. And so to set up this demo, I have essentially 3 documents. I have my requirements document, which would be your PDD or whatever you get from the BA. And then I have sort of prompts that I have, right? Very similar to, I think, the other steps in the process. You have your input and then some prompts. And so you'll see up here, if you're not familiar with this interface, this is VS Code. I'm using GitHub Copilot. You could probably do something similar with Cursor or other, I don't know, coding Copilot tools or whatnot. I use Copilot just because it's like that sweet spot of like cost versus how much you get. I don't know. Your mileage may vary, but yeah. And so, in this interface, very similar to the other tools that you guys have seen, I can choose whether I just want to ask it, whether I want it to make edits, or whether I run it in agent mode. I can pick what model I want to run it against, and I can even import, whatever custom model with APIs. And then this interface also has access or integration with my terminal in case I was not doing UiPath development and there were like terminal CLI tools I wanted to use.
Yash, could I
But we are,
quickly interrupt you? Just if you're
yeah.
able to zoom in by any chance. I think
Oh,
some
yeah.
people in the chat just say, hey.
I don't think so. I can share it on my other screen though, so that it's smaller. Give me 1 second.
Sorry to break the flow.
No, you're good. How do I stop sharing? That's how I stop sharing. Share screen. There, better?
Much better. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, that's sort of the interface. When you give it prompts, you can see based on the placeholder here, I can give it context. I can have it look at extensions for VS Code, which is also a great feature. I can even have it run commands that are part of VS Code, which I don't really use that often. And so you'll see the first prompt I gave it in this chat history is I just referenced my prompt template. I referenced my requirements, and then I guess there's kind of just example files here for it to reference as like how I want the code to be written. And then I just let it run. It created this, it read this file and then created this validation workflow. And surprisingly, when I opened it up in UiPath, there were no validation errors, which is not usually par for course. But at this point, I would go in, I would review this code output. I mean, this is like how many lines? Yeah, 783 lines. And so probably going to take a decent amount of time to just review it. Does it actually line up with what the requirements are? Am I okay with how this is structured? And sort of like those types of things. I think key things that you have to watch out for is one, it's really good at prototyping and just writing code. It's really good at that. But what it's really bad at is it like high level architecture, high level design, understanding inheritance structures, or figuring out, hey, I should probably refactor this into a utility or into this class. Things like that, it doesn't really have a good handle on. Like if I ask it to make a change, it'll make a change in like 10 different spots, like the same change, rather than make the change in one spot and slightly modify the other implementation. So I think you just have to be aware as the developer of like what it's actually doing, and just have like a pretty make sure it's like in line at a high level. I think the actual code output shouldn't be too wrong most of the time. That's what I found. And so just to kind of show you guys what the requirements actually looked like, the requirements were for a validation workflow. We're going to get a bunch of documents or an invoice basically, and we have to validate all of the fields. There's a type, there's requirements for each field. It has to be in this format, cannot be more than 365 days from the invoice date. Payment term must align with vendor agreement. The types of stuff you would typically see in invoice processing automation. And so, yeah, we can validate. Okay, another part of the requirements was that there should be severity levels. So there's like critical, which means we always reject, warning, flag for review, and information, just sort of analytics, and then success criteria and error handling. So that's sort of what's part of the requirements, which is I think all common to what we would receive on an actual project. We Yeah, we run the prompt, we get all this code, great. Now, another prompt that you can run right after this, as I have done here, is my test case prompt. So I have another prompt to create test cases. So I give it another role, I define the task, I give it context, I point it to the requirements document saying, hey, all of your requirements that we're building against are here. And then I tell it how I want my test structured, because otherwise it'll just put it all into one file. It doesn't really know how UiPath coded workflows work. And so you need to just put some guardrails around that. And then, yeah, I tell it, these are the test cases I want. This is how each test case should be set up, arrange, act, assert. And then this is how you would verify. Yeah, just some more context. And then I ran that prompt against my requirements. It was able to figure out like, okay, yeah, this is my actual file or workflow that I'm testing. It created a bunch of folders. It created a test helpers static class, and it created all of my tests. And then this was actually a pretty successful prompt because there was very little I had to change afterwards. Usually there's like some stuff you have to update because it's just, got the syntax wrong a little bit or something like that. But this one was pretty good. And then now that I have all my tests created, I can just run all my test cases, and it'll go and validate that. Obviously, again, very important to review what's actually created. At this point, let's say I've reviewed how the validations are actually being done and I've generated my tests. So my next step would be to validate all of the tests and make sure that it's actually testing what it's supposed to test and that the results are actually what we want it to be. And then as you'll see, it's testing right now and we can see the log outputs, which is great. And, this whole process took me maybe 15 minutes. So from just the requirement document to basically a fully functioning prototype in 15 minutes is really great. Even if the code is, let's say, 50% as good, right? I've now saved so much more time just at least getting it stood up. And then obviously I can put in more effort to have it be the way that I want it to be. But yeah, I think that's kind of all I wanted to show. Yeah, copilots are really great. If you're not using one, you're missing out. You're doing a lot of unnecessary effort. Yeah, and I think that's it for me. I will pass it to Rotimi.
Hey everyone, again. And so I think we kind of spoke, or Yash just spoke through the build kind of stage in the project lifecycle, right? In the solution delivery lifecycle. I then come back again and not necessarily at the end of that, but through that to go, what are all the risks? What are all the problems? Because none of them happen during our projects. We're amazing on our side. But for those folks who have crazy projects, what they would do is go, hey, what are all the crazy things that could play out in the course of that, right? So I'm just going to talk about three core things in the entirety of the delivery life cycle. One really around risk identification and mitigation, how I try to address those kind of things. Things about technical challenges that we face in the course of the engagement and how I upskill myself to be able to add value to the team. And then I think the last piece would just be how I navigate challenging business scenarios. So just three things I'll talk to you about just very quickly. But the first one, I'll give you a scenario in how that will play out in real life. And Yash will be my culprit in this case. This is not a real client. This is not anything, but this is what it is. So it's like, hey, Yash comes through. We're in one of our daily stand-ups. I'm doing 5 million things, as I always do. But Yash is talking to Hudson about the project and what he's encountering in the course of his build, right? And in the course of that, he calls out something in the middle of that. Hudson has like a hesitation and oops, right, gets stated in the course of that conversation. Now, because Rotimi is doing 1 million other things, he's on the call. And so Yash and Hudson are like, hey, my project manager is here. He heard that. It's all good. Borotimi is not there. Primarily, it's off video. And then what then plays out essentially is, luckily for me, I've got this another person that comes with me on the calls that are called fireflies on my side. I'm not shouting out fireflies or anything, but essentially a co-pilot for note taking. And so how I would utilize that in that situation is that at the end of that, it's identifying like call outs, action items, and things like that. But then I can take that transcript, and I think Michelle mentioned that earlier, pass that to Aura, who's my ChatGPT co-pilot, and say, hey, can you identify all the risks that kind of came out of this conversation? And then Aura helps me identify and tells me, Yash called out a biggie in there. And I'm like, Yash, what? What was this problem? And that kind of situation kind of plays out in that case. But because I use that to pick it up, I'm able to then quickly get ahead of that. We work together to mitigate that, manage that through the project governance lifecycle, and kind of get to solve a problem that could have been an issue, but it was still at risk level. So these are the kind of things that kind of play out from project managers today. And this is how AI helps us with that, right? Risk identification and mitigation. I think the other scenario, I'll try and illustrate that, just show you what that kind of looks like, is more around the challenges we have when it comes to dealing with projects, right? So we've got our project going great. It's in UAT. I already prepped this one for you. So just let me know if you see the screen. But I utilize this to go, hey, Aura, the client's asking for new scope, and I'm nearly done with UAT. I'm supposed to be done tomorrow. How? And can you help me, right, with an email structure to help manage this situation, right? Because I don't want to start thinking about how I frame this. This dude is the greatest guy in the world, but I need to be able to manage him appropriately and make sure that it's clear. And so Aura gives me like a template I can work with and I can build on to get my communication clear. And so I kind of read the first pass at this and I'm like, this is not a human being's messaging. And so I go, Aura, this is my prompt, right? Can you make this more human, with a smiley face so she doesn't get upset? But at the same time, executive ready, right? So it sounds a bit more natural, because you don't want to sound like a bot when you're talking to clients as well, that you can lose trust very quickly with regards to that, because it sounds like you don't know what you're doing. And so I highly advocate treating it as a co-pilot and not your thinker, because you will have a problem. People can sift that from a mile away when they know when it's AI who gave you all the ideas, or you work to something to get you the best possible output. And so I do that, and you can see that this feels a bit more natural. It's like, hey, I appreciate you bringing it forward. I want to quickly outline what this means operationally. I'm using words that make it feel like, hey, I hear your pain, but at the same time, this is kind of where we are with the project. This feels and makes you a lot more effective as a project manager. And then you see words like suggested path forward, because they're your clients at the end of the day. You don't want to sound like a mini bully. And so you want to utilize these kind of things. And so you can kind of see that with this, I then have stuff that I will spend an hour trying to think through how I come up with this. I've done that in all of 1 second, 5 seconds, however long it takes me to write that prompt. And so this helps me manage challenging situations, and you can extrapolate how many of those you deal with in the project lifecycle. And then the last one that I think is valid is then, I spoke to you all earlier from a project manager standpoint to say that, hey, we don't just want to be checklist folks. We want to actually be adding value. And so the scenario here is then when the team's going through a technical hurdle, right? So Hudson's, Yash, better still, is the smartest guy, is a genius, but sometimes he deals with. And so he gets to one of those calls and says, blah, 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 data fabric, blah, 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 selectors. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. And I quickly chat, what is data fabric? I've never heard that word. And I'm like, oh, that's what that is. And so knowing the context and knowing the client's pain point, and if you remember where we were with the initiation, where we saw that some of the problems unstructured data and things like that. And so I'm able to tie that risk there to what he's just said there. We already had a mitigation at initiation. I said, when you run into the situation, this is how you mitigate it, right? Ensure that Hudson's already captured schemas and worked with the data team to try and structure how data gets captured in the organization and their footprint. And so when that comes through, I can connect Hudson to Yash in that kind of scenario and say, hey, we already had something Yeah, here is what it is. And I'm like, oh, great. Now I don't have to think about this. He utilizes that mitigation we had pre-thought about at the beginning of the engagement, and he uses that to solve that technical challenge. So even if I didn't know it, I was able to tie two separate situations and bring us to a concrete position. And so that's it in a nutshell, right? It's a co-pilot that supports the delivery to just ensure that we're providing value as project managers, right? And not just being checklist folks. Pause there, and I think I'll pass it off to someone.
Vignesh.
Vignesh, over to you. Joe.
Thank you, Rotimi. Hello, good morning, everyone. This is Vignesh. I'm a RPA developer working with Greenlight. I'm excited to be here today to talk about artificial intelligence that's reshaping the way we build automations. How artificial intelligence is becoming a true, as Mail said, not an autopilot, co-pilot for UiPath developers. So in my daily task, like I'm taking so many supports from AI, which helps me to finish the task quickly and efficiently. Let's start with the AI in UiPath apps. Like many people, I don't know, you have hands-on with UiPath apps. UiPath apps is already a great way to build a low-code, user-friendly interface for our automations. But with AI integration, we can make these apps more easier and at the same time quicker. So let's imagine you are building an app. It may be a form, or you are planning to show the table, uh, anything like that. But how painful it is, like when you dragging each and every text boxes, option boxes, uh, or drop down, and you need to think how exactly you need to prepare the app, prepare the form. Um, mm, it's a little bit time taking. At the same time, like when you design the app, the main issue is you need to align each and every field properly. The alignment, it takes long time. So, but with UiPath apps, we have a AI integration so that we can build the app using the prompt. Let's see how we can do that. You guys able to see my screen?
No, not yet.
I can't see it, no.
It's coming. There we go.
Okay. So this is UiPath apps. So how we need to come to this page, you just need to click on this icon, then click here apps. So it will redirect to you to UiPath apps. So here is the uh, prompt you need to enter to create your app. So when people like when we ask the any developers or anyone to write the prompt, they will be a little bit scared. Oh, okay, I need to write so much stuff. I need to follow any structure in the prompt. Trust me, no need to follow any structure over here. So nowadays, like AI understand the natural language. So that is the thing I just want to show you. Anyone can just type what they want and they can build the app or they can build the code. But just they need to talk to the people like how you talking to your friend. In the similar way, you need to talk to the AI. Let's go with a small prompt. So I'm writing a create a uh, feedback form. Uh, Second, I need to collect from the attendees. So I know this is not a right prompt, but I just wanted to show you even the natural language AI able to create the prompt. Let me click it. Let me see I'm able to get the form or not. So once I write the prompt, UiPath Autopilot, it's generating the form and it's giving a basic form for us so that it'll be so that we can use it as a feedback form. So you see here the name, email address, session rating, content quality, and speaker comments, and some even I didn't add anything in my prompt. I just asked the AI to create a feedback form. I didn't add anything. So if I want add any specific fields, then I need to add something like include this specific field. Then the form will be generated including that field. But I just want to show you how quickly I'm able to build this form in a proper manner, in an efficient way. And if you see over here, this autopilot already created an entity for me. And so, and it will create the entity and the variables and the values, whatever we entered into the form, it will be stored in the variable and we can use it in the in our code level. How easy it is to build the app. So I understand your question. Like most of the time, like we will not get the requirement something from BA or from SME like this. So they usually share a particular form to us, and they asked us to build the same structure in the app. Do we have the option? Yes, we have. So even in here, you see a attachment icon. So we can add any designed PDF file app into it, and the app will generate the similar kind of form. So I downloaded a form so that I can show you how exactly it works. So I just downloaded this form from internet. So I just want to show you different fields like text box, drop down, option, and there is some small table kind of stuff over here. I'm just going to upload this to the UiPath apps and we'll check how A is A is creating the form for us. Okay. I uploaded the form. So once I upload, it automatically started to creating the form similarly to the same structure. So it's passing it, and then it will generate the layout for us, and it will show you. Yep, the app is ready. So within a couple of, I think, seconds, the app is ready for us. You can check the design. It's a similar design, how we wanted. And even here, the design looks better than the design what we have it in the PDF file, and it added a template also, submit button also, so that we can submit it. And you can see over here the options, how it exactly looked in the PDF file. It's created over here. And like how I said before, you can see over here, the entity was created. And so we can use this use these values in our code. How easy it is. So it's not only creating autopilot is helping us to create apps. At the same time, autopilot it's helping us to create a flow, create a workflow, helping us to generate a workflow, helping us to create an expression for us. So I have for today's demo, I just opening trying to use the Studio Desktop, but the similar functionality is available in uh, online. I mean Studio also. So let me show you how we can create a small expressions. So everyone knows here we need to use assign activity. So here you can see autopilot is already available. So let me type. So whatever we want, instead of knowing each and every function, we can just type what exactly we want. For example, let's see, we need to combine two link queries. So most of the developers we are spending more time like to creating a logic, creating what's called creating a expressions over here. But with this feature, it's becoming very easy. I can just generate a link query to join two tables. One is order, one is company using a company ID. Just give it to us. The code, it will be automatically created. We type it. Link query. To join two tables. I don't know. Check. Two tables. Okay, let me delete this one. We can delete this the whole stuff. Let me create a sequence. Maybe I can write. I'm trying to generate a workflow. Generate a workflow. Go to read the Excel sheet and display it. Generate. So what I'm doing over here is like I just wanted to read a Excel sheet and display the result over here. So if you see here, the the autopilot already created a workflow for me. I just click the confirm. So it will automatically add the dependency packages, everything, and your code is ready for this particular logic. So end to end is ready. You just need to make few changes like which Excel sheet you need to access. So that and all couple of changes you need to add. And even if you don't want to add this, you can write that in a prompt. Then you will get that information also feed in the while generating the workflow. So it's installing the package which is required to run this workflow. It's adding the dependency right now. How cool it is. So it generated the workflow for you. It need to read, converting the table to text and showing that text in the logs. So in a similar way, you can, I won't say like it will do it 100%. Yes, 80, 70 to 80%, the flow will be generated, and you just need to change the values based on how you want it, how cool it is. So even though like people who are very uh, less in coding knowledge, they can also build the workflow. Let me see. Let me try the expression builder one more time. It should work. Let me pull this, go here, create a link query to join to data tables. Run it. Let's see how it goes. Yep, this time it works. You can see the link query was generated over here. And even you can add over here the table names like order and like I'm just putting, you can put whatever you want. Yeah, order and company using company ID. So what I'm saying to him is like generate a query, you join these two table using the company ID. So the table, both tables are order and company. Let's see. See, the link query was generated. At the same time, yeah, there are several things you can use it over here. So it's not only like link queries, you can use this functionality for creating a SQL, even creating a cron expression, or even if you wanted to validate something, yes, you need to do it. You can do it. And yeah, so you can use it like no need to spend much time like thinking it of like how exactly we need to build it. And we can use the autopilot over here to finish the task quickly. So I'm just trying one more example. Like I wanted to check the value, the email address. It should not be empty. At the same time, it should be at uipath.com. It's already created over here. So this is the way, yeah, you can create your queries easily in UiPath Studio. And one more thing I like to share, I mean, this is one of my favorite tool I was using like so many times. Is anyone heard about Clipboard AI? Any thumbs up if you heard about it?
There's a yes in the chat and thumbs up here.
Cool. How efficiently are you using that Clipboard AI? So many people like they're not efficiently using the clipboard AI. Like I feel like it's a really a gem tool, which is a hidden gem tool. Like no one knows about it. Like they're not using it in really a proper manner. So I just want to show a couple of examples, like how I am using Clipboard AI in my development uh, phase. So I can show you. So as a developer, like many people, we able to notice this particular issue in the code. So one is like when we moving a asset from one environment to another environment, uh, we used to copy each and everything from the config file, and we are adding it over here. But sometimes we miss a space over here, and when we deploy the code and when we running the bot in UAT or even in production, there will be error will happen. Then we able to figure it out. Okay, that is a small space we missed over here. That's like a human error. But to handle that, how I am using the uh, clipboard AI is I usually copy the whole config file, and from there, like okay, why this is not showing it up? Yeah, so I usually copy the config file and I used to paste it over here. So if I paste it like one by one asset name, it will be added in the orchestrator, and you won't get any mistakes over here, and it will be easy task to do it. So you don't need to think worried about, okay, is there any space missed over here, or is there anything I wrongly entered in the asset name? You don't need to think about it because the clipboard AI is efficiently doing it. So once you added this one, just put something like the value and save it and open it again. You have the next one, just click paste data. So it will match. At the same time, it will add the next asset name over here with the description. So there is no way you can make a mistake over here. And one more thing, good stuff in the clipboard AI is like it will store. You can see over here the asterisk mark over here. It shows this data is added successfully to the uh, wherever you want to, whatever. In this case, like it's orchestrated, this data is already added to it. So this one is already added to it. If you go to the next one, this is not added because you can't see this hashtag over here. So it will reduce the confusion. At the same time, you can enter the values into any application or anywhere more efficiently and quicker manner. How good it is. And one more way, like I use the clipboard AI for the test data generation. So sometimes, like I used to create test data uh, for my UAT environment, for my production, for my UAT environment or for my unit testing. Uh, so in that one, like let's take an example, like the client gave you different types of PDF files. From that, you need to pick few company names and few data. Let's take like few data. You need to pick it from the invoice, and you need to put it in the Excel sheet. So each and every time you need to copy and paste it because there are so many stuffs over here which is not required for you. You just need specific information. So with Clipboard AI, you can easily do that. So I just need the company name, company address, email address, and phone number. That is this particular information over here. So what I need to do is just open the Clipboard AI, go to this file, which is already I have just tested before this meeting. So what exactly you just need to copy this value using this one. Then once you get it, just paste it. So what exactly it will do is it will just bring the company name and paste it on the right places. So if you see the company name is added in the right place and company address added over here. So once you add this mapping, so you can use the same mapping to n number of files. You no need to write the same mapping again and again. So if you go here, I'm taking the invoice 5, the next invoice, just opening it, opening the clipboard AI, clicking the invoice 5, click, what is it? Just click paste. It just changed the value to the new invoice, like 5. If you see here, the company name is picked from here, and company address is picked from here, email is picked properly, phone number also picked properly. There is one thing you need to do to this mapping. You have something here called paste with mapper. So here that will show you the information, what exactly it extracted and where you need to feed it. So only one time if you map this one, so with a similar type of data, like it always used to get the right place and you can get the right information in the data. And this Excel sheet, you can use it for your test data. At the same time, like when you wanted to add anything to the queue item, like you just need to upload this Excel file to the queue, and all your queue data will be generated, and you can use it for your testing purpose, unit testing purpose, or even in UAT, you can use it. So these are a couple of things like I used. There are so many things. Like these are a couple of things I like to share with you today. Thank you.
Thanks, Dick.
Amit?
Yeah, there's a couple questions if you want to answer in the chat. And Gagan, over to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gagan. I'll be demonstrating the Excel automation today. For that, we'll take a big step back and start from the scratch as a novice on Excel. This will be a zero to almost hero journey for Excel automation with UiPath and using AI. And there's so much you can do with Excel and UiPath, and I likely won't be able to demonstrate all, but should be able to give you a fair idea to kickstart or perhaps enhance your existing knowledge. I have some demos and ready for you to demonstrate. Let me share my screen. Okay. As I said, we'll start from the scratch. So I have an email address in Excel, and I have some prompts ready for you, which I will read it out. I have some sample data in my Excel file here. So my Excel file, I have some email addresses, and I want a formula that just extracts the domain part from the email address. So I'll say, can you give me a formula that works for any email in a cell? It will do that. Meanwhile, I'll show you like the formula I will return. So I just apply the formula here. Well, I can expand it as much as I can go. It just gives me the domain from here. Very basic, but you can use this to extract first name from a full name, last name from full name, calculate age and all that. Get a weekday from a date, combine, remove spaces, you know. So this is an end user use case. We'll be using an Excel. Next, we'll go a little bit deeper when we have a multi-criteria lookup. Wherein I have product, I have a month, and I have sales for each of those months for that product. I would like to enter the product name here, month here, and then I want to get the sales of that product for that specific month. Again, we have a prompt created. I had the prompts created already with me. I wanted to save the time and don't want to waste time on typing and all that stuff. So I have a table in Excel with 3 columns. First is product, month, and sales. I want a formula that looks up the sales column for a specific product and a month. For example, if I type, I'm specifying where I'm typing the product and where I'm typing the month. and I want to get the correct sales order for that. Will provide me a formula for that, and I have it already here. So even if I say Apple Jan or March, right? These are pretty basics for now. Now I have another example. Let's say I want to calculate a salary for an employee, which might be working in multi-departments, and I want to see how much salary for that employee is for that particular for a particular month. We'll do the time in, time out, and all that stuff, and then calculate the total salary across all the departments for that one particular employee. So have it create an Excel table with columns with the other column that I'm providing. I'm also asking for it to generate a sample data so I can test that output that it will or the formula that it will provide me. So I'll go here. So it did provided me sample data. It did provided me an explanation on to what it is doing. And then it also provided me a final formula that I will use for the salary calculation that I have used here. As has been said before, you have to check the output that are provided by GPT or any AI tool, and you might have to rework some of those. As for now, it doesn't know where I will be entering the data. So it provided me some other cell numbers here, G2, H2, wherein my data is in K and L column. So just a little bit of that, you don't need to get anything that you have to do. If I do here, Emma Davis, probably for Feb, 242. So it just calculated all the February work for Emma Davis, HR and IT, and just multiplied pay rate with the hour that it worked in. Okay, that was so far that was basic Excel automation. Now we have one with macro, which most of you will be using when working with Excel automation. Apart from formulas, you can do VLOOKUP and all that too. But for macros, I have already created a prompt again. So this will create me an sample file that I have already downloaded, and I'll show you guys. This will give me a sample file with the sample data. This is actually a close comparison to what I have already worked upon, one of the use cases at a client, wherein we had to do color-coded cell data. I could not do exactly what we do, but I tried to replicate it. So what it is going to do is read one of the invoices sheet. Let me show you the data. So this is the file. I have a customer, I have an invoice, a month for those invoice, for which month that invoice was for, and what's the status on that invoice, if it's paid, if it is past due or new. And we wanted a dashboard wherein for each customer, this will be a month-wise, how many invoices were issued. And if the invoice was paid, past due, or new, it will color code these invoice numbers accordingly. So within the cell, it's a different color code that will do. For that, there's no direct way other than I go in here and choose the color and do the color coding on that. And there's no direct way with activity that we have to color code within the cell. You can color code a cell, a full cell itself, like a background or foreground color, but you cannot color code within that cell, the different data. So you have to write a macro for that. Okay, so I have the macro ready. I'll just run this prompt here, but Okay, let it do the job, and we will run the macros. Well, the macro is ready. I'll save it as a XLSM file, macro enable, close it. Come back to my dashboard. I just had to, give something a new, and it did do the job for the macro. Okay, now there are like different ways. One we saw earlier with that can be used with VLOOKUP. This is another one, which is macros. And then we know like you can read the data table, you can read the Excel as a data table and run a for loop and all that stuff around it. And then there's also link queue query that we have used with the Vignesh example. There are different ways, or you can do so much with the link queue queries. Then there's another way where you can treat Excel as a database. Depending on how big your Excel is, you will have to choose accordingly. So what is the most efficient way of all of these to work with Excel? Well, it depends on how big your Excel is and what you want to use it for, right? So you can use data table for filtering. You can use link queue queries. You can use data view, right? I have an example created for you guys in the UiPath, wherein we will compare onto, okay, well, for a large data set, for a smaller data set, and for a very large data set, how long does it take to process it? So I have a very small DB, which is generally this file, this sheet here, which it will read as a database, will read as a database. I have a large DB, which is about 10,000 lines, and it will read Excel as a data table and run a link queue query on that. And then same data table, 10,000 lines, it will do as a database connection, and we'll run a SQL query on the database connection. So we'll treat the Excel file as a database, and we'll run the SQL query on that. We'll get the result. I have a start and end time on each of these example that we are doing, so we know how long does it spend for different set of data tables or databases, and then like how what the results were. So I'll just deep run this one, and we'll talk about the results. Okay, so the results are in. Where did that go? For a small one-liner code, it took 1 second because it needs to read that Excel as a database. For 10,000 lines of code, when I run the link queue, it spends 3 seconds on that. And when I read the same file as a database, spends 0 second, split second it might be. And then I have a large file with 100,000 lines. So I read that as a data table into UiPath and then run a link queue query on that. It took 9 seconds to filter it out. And then the same table, 100,000 lines, it spent only 3 seconds. So depending on how large your data set is, you might want to consider on to what you want to do. If you want to load the whole of the data table into your UiPath and run link queue query on that, or you want to do a for loop, or you want to do treat it as a data table, database actually, sorry, and run a SQL query on that. I hope I was able to provide some information. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kagan. And back
Thanks,
over
that
to
was great.
Michelle.
Yeah.
Diana, do we have a few more minutes or should we end?
Yeah, go ahead. We'll continue to tape it too, so people can get this after if they have to drop.
Okay.
I'll go quick. Going to jump right back into where we left off with after PDD and requirements creation. So basically what I do at that point is I can move really quickly after requirements have been approved by the client. Once they've said, yes, this is good, I can immediately start working on my UAT, my test cases for UAT, which is really helpful for the developers because they have what those UAT scenarios and test cases will be before they even get into development, really. So they can use those to help map their way through. So what I do is I take the output, an Excel file of all the requirements that I have. I usually copy and pasted it out of Word back into Excel because it is easier to digest. I've been finding by Claude or ChatGPT if it's in an Excel format. But you can always try from your Word document and see what goes from there. And I will just share my screen. So here's the prompt that I have been using. Pop it up there. Great. So it's huge, but we've spent a lot of time working on this. So every time I do something, I kind of iterate on it and improve this prompt. It's massive, but it works. So what I do is I take that, I used Claude this time. Usually I tried in Claude and tried in ChatGPT, running both and then pick which one I like more for the output, just to play around with it and see what's working each time. Put it in, and this is what it spits back out for me. I download this as a CSV file. So here is the output. For me, this is really, really helpful to the big parts, which are the test data requirements and expected results. Also some notes that they may want to put in here as well that help me kind of digest this. I find as a BA, having just done a Visio and then done a PDD, I'm kind of tired of regurgitating the same information over and over again. And putting in the level of detail for test data and expected results is a lot of extra work that sometimes just kind of feels like, why am I doing this? It's really obvious. But when you're presenting this to a client, it shows that you put in like a certain amount of care and effort for it, but I didn't. Claude did. So it makes you look really, really good and professional as a BA to be able to turn this around. This is probably for me, depending on the amount of requirements, anywhere from 2 to 8 to sometimes like 12 or 16 hours of work that is actually spit out for me in 15 minutes. So this for me is probably the biggest amount of time savings that I have in my job, as well as the piece of my job that I dislike the most. So being able to do this really helps. I go through and review every single one of these. Then I'm just checking, does this make sense against the Visio flow? Is a step missing? Do I actually just need to review or remove one of these test cases or test scenarios? Or has it come up with something? A couple of times it's come up with things that I had missed, that I would have missed personally with testing. So I've been like, oh, right, I should be testing that in UAT. And it's actually put in things that I probably would have missed, so that I can review this, double check that everything's good, and then provide this back to the business and the developers immediately. Great. Mel, over to you.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm going to flip over to project manager hat again and talk about RAID logs. So for any PMs out there, the risks, action items, issues, and decision log, it takes quite a bit of time to keep updating. So what I have done, and I can't show you the Google sheet, but I can show you, so I like using Claude for this, Claude projects. I can show you the instructions that I have in here. So from a meeting transcript, instructions to summarize, and then to consume the current RAID log. And what I like to do is just ask it to provide bullet points on what it thinks are the updates. I usually do have some adjustments, less adjustments, giving more project context as part of its part of the information that's available to it. But it's beautiful. It saves so much time to be able to have those updates applied automatically. So that is it for me. And if anyone has used Nano Banana, just maybe I'll add on a quick tidbit there. It's actually quite good, and it's quite good at consistently as well, creating images like images. So let me just show this actually. Wait for my screen to load. Okay, so this is in the Vertex AI, Google's platform. You might be able to still get free trial. If not, I put it through its paces and it cost me $1, so not bad. But just generating icons for this presentation was pretty good. It saves time for sure. It wasn't great with making making the image a circle and then transparent around the sides, so I had to throw it into GIMP, but saved a lot of time with icon creation. So if you haven't tried it out, try Nano Banana. All right, Diana, over to you.
Yeah, thank you guys. This is really interesting, and thank you for introducing us to new roles that you guys, the roles that you guys do, and then also new tools to go with those roles. It was really good and very interesting. We got a lot of questions in the chat too, so that's a good indicator. But thank you all for joining today. Don't forget, we have 3 more sessions next week. And Greenlight will be the last session. They'll be on the 12th. So they'll be coming back. And then also, if you have any questions, just remember, you can still put your questions in forum and we will still take those for the AI series. So thank you all for attending, and the recording will be available tomorrow. Thank you all.
Bye, everyone.